Want er staat wel, observatie en dialoog zijn fundamenteel. Maar observatie en dialoog is niet inbreng vanuit andere mensen. En de sneuveltekst wordt keer op keer herschreven. Dat is wel mooi.
Ja.
Dus het is wel een soort leerproces ook voor de school.
Ja.
Dat is wel mooi. Er is een verwachting in de tekst dat de buurt of de organisaties of de mensen met wie je gaat samenwerken op jou zitten te wachten. Terwijl je weet niet eens met wie je gaat samenwerken. Je moet zelf ook uitzoeken met wie je gaat samenwerken. En het is maar de vraag of ze op je zitten te wachten. Dus dat zou ik heel moeilijk vinden. En als ik het zelf zou zijn, dan zou ik eerder inderdaad naar zo'n zelforganisatie toetrekken. Zo je hebt Voix des Sans-Papiers Saint-Jos bijvoorbeeld. En kijken hoe zij werken, kijken wat ze doen, meedraaien, meedoen met de dingen die zij organiseren. En dan van daaruit vragen, oké, ik heb deze skills, kan ik jullie ergens bij helpen? Kunnen we iets samen doen? Is dat nuttig voor jullie? En soms is dat niet nuttig. Dus het is moeilijk om in zo'n korte tijd, zonder te weten met wie je gaat werken, al te beseffen voor wie je een film kunt. Ik neem aan dat het product een film is. Ik zou het heel moeilijk vinden. En het co-creatieproces is inderdaad doen en bijsturen en opnieuw bekijken. Maar niet alleen tussen student en begeleider, maar juist met de mensen met wie je iets maakt. Maar daar is geen ruimte voor. Dat vind ik moeilijk. Hier. Ik zou willen dat je ofwel niet pretendeert dat het co-creatie is, maar gewoon zegt, oké, we gaan kijken wat er in wijken speelt. Welke organisaties, welke mensen er zijn en wat zij nodig hebben en wat wij voor ze kunnen betekenen. En hoe we kunnen samenwerken, zodat wij een meer sociale partner hebben in ons werk. Dat is oké. Of het zou zijn, oké, we gaan stage lopen, meedraaien. En dan zien of we iets kunnen betekenen of iets samen kunnen creëren. Maar dat is een meer langetermijnproces, denk ik. Of een proces wat elk jaar zich herhaalt met bepaalde organisaties. Maar ik vraag me ook af of de mensen met wie je samenwerkt en de organisaties met wie je samenwerkt, wat voor middelen krijgen zij? De studenten krijgen er een diploma uit. De docenten hebben een salaris. Maar je weet nooit of het eindproduct nuttig gaat zijn voor de mensen met wie je de co-creatie doet. Dus wat halen zij eruit? Stel dat het eindproduct niet afgeraakt of niet iets is wat binnen hun kaders valt. Wat hebben ze dan? En worden de mensen betaald? Worden ze vergoed? Krijgen ze beloftes van als je meedoet aan dit project, dan helpt de school je om een project gefinaliseerd te krijgen? Of gaat de school je begeleiden met het verder verwerken van deze dingen? Dat is hier niet. Dus er is weinig ruimte voor de mensen met wie je zou moeten samenwerken. En de insteek en aanname van at their worst, they're exploitative, I think. No, at their worst, they're exploitative and portraying an image of a group of people or a community or a neighborhood or an organization or a sort of category of people that is harmful. Like also, for example, I work a lot on migration. So if you go to a migrant group, if you go there with intentions of this is a precarious group and I want to work on precarious groups, then you also need to realize that people don't want everything to be visible or everything to be known. There's a need for some things to be hidden. There's a choice also for some things to be a bit more hidden. And if you go into it with the idea of experiencing and portraying it, you can continue stereotypes, you can make very vulnerable or compromising information available to the public, which you shouldn't. You can, if you're doing something for someone with, but not really with them, it's also against them. Like that's the very common saying, and I really believe in that. So, yeah, the worst outcome could be like, I don't know, RITCS students portraying the hardships of life in migrant neighborhoods, and then just portraying like continuing stereotypes that don't do justice to the way people experience themselves, which makes people feel even more excluded, which can be used, talking about migration, which can be used by political parties to say like we need these and these types of policies, or which can be used for like these racist marches that we have and stuff. Like there's really harmful stuff that can happen, and especially if you're talking about the social psychological dimension, you need guidance and counseling with that. You need to collaborate with social workers who know the neighborhood. You need the psychological and political background and the context. Like there's a lot of stuff that you need to know, which I don't think there's space for here. So if I've been involved in social projects either as a researcher or as a more a social worker or an activist. But then it's very important to...
N'aurais pas de test.
Non, j'ai pas de pièce.
Merci.
I love him. He's my neighbor. About 10 years ago, there was this whole like trend of social and societal relevance of art and humanities, which also happened in my field. And it was very much like, how can we do things that are useful for precarious groups, for policy making? In my field of history also, like, what is the relevance of your work in societal context? That's very much something that was being done 10 years ago, and it was very much also done from the ivory towers of academies and universities of like, okay, we have been doing our work, what can we offer back to society? Like, we have all this knowledge, we have all these skills, what can we give back? I think that was also somewhere in the text, like, but giving back, like, it's almost like an old-fashioned idea of charity. Like, I have something so I can give to others, but you don't know if they're waiting for it, if they're waiting for your help or waiting for the thing that you want to give, if that's something that they want or need. And it's very much 10 years ago because we've had so many things have happened in the past 2 years specifically in academic world. Like, we've had Black Lives Matter, we've had Me Too, we've had the whole decolonization discussion, which has become much more central, luckily, than before. Before it was much more in the margins. And so there is like a change of how you approach things and what you want from them and who's in power and who decides and who has access to means and who doesn't. We're questioning all these things. Even if you don't have to take the words decolonialization into it, you don't have to take the words Black Lives Matter into this text. I don't think that there's a need for it. But you do need to question who's doing things for what reason and what are they getting out of it. And if this is really like participative and co-creating, then I think before you drop the students in the neighborhood and just let this little bomb explode in their heads of fuck, what can I do? How do I approach this? It's better to discuss also like what are the intentions of the project, what are the outcomes, what are you as students getting from it. I really think it's good to make students make work outside of the academy and also to make them work in a Brussels context or with people in Brussels. But there's not enough space for the students' experiences as well, I think, within this. Even if they say it's not a personal project, you are doing it as an individual with your own experiences and your own backgrounds, which might be different from your teachers' experiences and backgrounds. If I were to do a project like this in 3 weeks with students, I don't think I would drop them in the neighborhood that they don't know. Unless they are being dropped in a neighborhood that they don't know with an organization that is doing work in this neighborhood, that has been working with the school for longer, that has like certain directions or intentions that are already communicated with the students from the beginning, that you can already visit before the start of the project as a student. And then within that organization or within that group, you can find your own way of who you collaborate with. Like if you take the example of Voix des Sans-Papiers, there's hundreds of people involved there. There's so many things you could work about. You could work about the neighborhood supporting these groups. You could work about certain ethnic groups within that group. You could talk about the political organization, the practical organization. There's so many things you could work on that are social and that could have a use. Or like Cine Maximilian, which is a project started by Belgian film students with asylum seekers and has evolved into a film producing project where they've also made mistakes, but they have also changed and evolved as an organization, and they probably still make mistakes, everyone does, but they're talking about it and they're doing that. So if I would do a project with this, I would really have really good contacts in the field and predefined organizations, and I would tell students, like, if you want to work on something else, it's possible, but we need certain criteria met. Like, we need you to have a contact person, we need you to be able to communicate clearly what you can offer to them and what the school can offer to them. And I would want also a point of accountability within the university, not towards just the students, but also towards the people that you work with. Especially with, there's so much artwork about, I'm still talking about migration because diversity and stuff is not so much my topic, migration is more, but there's so much artworks on migration that it's really like, do we need this? Do we need these stories? Are you the person to tell them? So it's really like, what does the school offer to the groups that they're working with and the communities they're working with? And the school should help hold themselves responsible and accountable for that. And maybe offer, like, maybe also almost offer it as like a sort of contract with the people or the groups they're working with. Like, we want our students to learn how to work with groups that we consider precarious. We want them to be able to make more social work. We want them to be able to work outside of the school context with other groups. We understand that this takes up your time and your energy, and that they are learning, so it won't necessarily be useful for you, the outcome, but we promise you that we can at least give you these and these outcomes back, or we can promise you that we will help you with, I don't know, like subsidy requests, or like a project you want to do, you can frame it within the school context. Like, institutions have so much power and means they don't realize. So that's what I would do, I think. There's much more responsibility for the school, I think, than that they're taking here in these texts that I read.